The line at Fresh Mart stretched long under the bright fluorescent lights, but Ademola Vaughn barely noticed. His hands gripped a cart filled with the bare essentials: a loaf of bread, some eggs, milk, and a few canned vegetables. His eyes scanned the store with quiet precision, absorbing the noises, the subtle gestures, the way people glanced at each other, the way patience frayed at the edges. He had walked past this scene 1,000 times in his life, yet today it felt different. He reached the front of the line and casually reached for his wallet, then paused. A small, almost imperceptible frown crossed his face. "Ah, I must have left it in the car," he murmured. "If you watched to this point, please like, share, comment, and subscribe." A sharp, impatient voice cut through the air like a knife. "Then move along, please. Some of us actually have places to be." Ademola looked up, calm, and met the glare of Vanessa Cole, the regional manager. Her polished shoes tapped on the floor impatiently. "Seriously? You're holding everyone up?" she snapped. A murmur of agreement rippled through the line. A woman behind him muttered, "Some people have no shame." Ademola's lips curved into a small, polite smile. "I apologize for the inconvenience," he said softly, but there was no tremor in his voice. Calm, controlled. He could feel the tension in the room tighten, like a string pulled taut. Behind the counter, Amara Okoye glanced up from scanning groceries. Her tired eyes flicked toward the man being chastised. Something in him didn't fit the situation. There was no shame, no defensiveness, just quiet dignity. Her hands paused over her scanner. "He seems different," she whispered under her breath. "Different?" her coworker asked without looking up. "He's just holding everyone up." Amara shook her head. She studied him. There was a kind of stillness about him, even under pressure. "Sometimes people aren't what they seem," she said, almost to herself. Vanessa stepped closer. "Sir, if you don't have the money, you need to step aside now. Others are waiting." Ademola inhaled slowly. He could feel the eyes of the entire store fixed on him, judgmental, impatient. He could have left, walked away, but today wasn't about groceries. Today wasn't about appearances. Today was a test. He glanced at the total on the register. $24.13. He could feel his heart rate remain steady, though his pulse carried a quiet thrill. The real story would unfold here, in this ordinary place with ordinary people. Amara's hands hovered over her wallet. She counted her bills quickly, silently. $30. Just enough. She looked at the man's eyes again. There was something there, a vulnerability, a trust. Her stomach tightened. Her rent was due tomorrow. Eli needed money for school bus fare. Her shift at the cleaning job started in an hour. She hesitated. I can cover this," she said quietly. The store fell silent. Every head turned. Vanessa's eyes widened. "What? You don't even know him," she hissed. Amara lifted her gaze. "I don't need to know him. Everyone deserves kindness." Ademola felt a small warmth in his chest. That's it. That's the moment that would reveal everything. He leaned slightly toward her. "You're willing to give your last money?" She shrugged, her voice barely above a whisper. "Sometimes you do what's right, even when it's hard." Vanessa's lips pressed tight. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. Ademola nodded, as if acknowledging a truth everyone else had missed. He watched as Amara handed over her crumpled bills. 20, a 5, and a coin. His eyes caught hers. There was courage there, a kind of fearless selflessness he hadn't seen in years. "Thank you," he said softly. "You just gave away what little you had, and it means more than you realize." The cashier smiled faintly, nervous but proud. I hope it helps someone someday." The line behind them shifted. People whispered, speculated, but none moved forward. The tension was palpable. Everyone wanted to see what would happen next. Ademola remained calm, but inside, he was quietly exhilarated. Years of experience, billions of dollars, power beyond comprehension. Yet here he stood, tested by a simple act of human generosity. And she had passed. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "You don't even know him," she repeated, her voice rising in exasperation. "Why risk your money like that?" Amara's hands trembled slightly as she replied, "Because one day, someone might do the same for me." And if I can make their day better, why not? Ademola's lips curved into a small, approving smile. He had been testing humanity his whole life, but it wasn't until now, in a small grocery store in Atlanta, that he felt a genuine pulse of it. A faint beep interrupted the tension. The card reader blinked, the transaction complete. Amara handed him the receipt, her fingers brushing his. He felt a surge of quiet admiration. "You have more courage than most people I know," he said softly. Amara looked up, slightly startled by the sincerity in his tone. I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything," he replied. "You've already spoken through your actions." Vanessa's face was red, both from anger and embarrassment. The whispers in the line had grown louder. People were beginning to notice the strange aura around the man, the contrast between the harshness of Vanessa and the quiet dignity of the man she scorned. Ademola leaned slightly toward her, in a way that only she could see. "The world often judges too quickly. But you understand." Amara's heart fluttered, a mix of nervousness and pride. I tried to," she said softly. Suddenly, the sound of a black luxury car pulling up outside caught everyone's attention. Ademola's driver, Hassan, stepped out quietly, straightening his tie, and opened the rear door. Ademola glanced back at Amara. "Excuse me for a moment," he said. Vanessa's head snapped toward the window as the sleek car drew closer. She stiffened. Something was happening. Ademola picked up his phone and casually tapped a few keys. Within moments, the subtle tension in the room changed. Eyes widened. Whispers became audible. "Wait, is that?" Amara watched, curious, as Ademola turned back toward her. He smiled warmly. "You just gave away your last $24.13, he said quietly. "And it was the most valuable thing anyone could have given me today." He pulled a small, sleek card from his pocket and handed it to her. Her eyes widened as she read aloud in disbelief. Ademola Vaughn, Chairman, Vaughn Global Holdings. Vanessa froze mid-step. Her confident facade cracked. The whispers became a low hum. People began checking their phones, confirming what they had just seen. Ademola nodded calmly, as if to emphasize the point. "Your generosity matters more than my buildings, my cars, or my fortune. It's given freely. That's why it counts." Amara felt her cheeks flush. She hadn't given it to him for recognition. She hadn't even known who he was. She had given it because it was right. Vanessa's voice cracked. I can't believe this." Ademola simply smiled. "Believe it. The world often gets it wrong. But kindness is never wrong." The store had fallen completely silent. Every eye on the two of them. Every heart, some inspired, some embarrassed, some unsure what to feel. Amara looked down at her hands, at the crumpled bills, and then back at him. I just did what I thought was right. "And that," Ademola said, his voice soft but full, "is exactly why it was perfect." The moment stretched, almost unreal. The murmurs in the store grew into whispers, then low chatter. Phones emerged from pockets. Someone was recording. Ademola watched Amara, her eyes wide, breathing uneven. She had no idea what she had just stepped into. Vanessa's face had turned a stormy shade of red. This isn't possible," she stammered. "He can't just—" "Yes, I can," Ademola said gently, almost to himself. But everyone heard. "And this isn't about punishment. It's about truth. Character reveals itself in the smallest moments." Amara shook her head. I didn't even know who you were. I just did what seemed right." "That's exactly why it mattered," Ademola replied. There was a quiet intensity in his eyes, something magnetic, something that made everyone in the store hold their breath. It's easy to be generous when you have plenty. It's rare, and far more valuable, to give when it costs you something. The recording on the phone had already begun to spread. Within an hour, clips were appearing across social media platforms: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. The caption read, "Cashier pays for strangers' groceries. He owns 14 buildings." By the end of the day, the video had racked up over 2 million views. Comments flooded in, some cheering Amara's courage, others roasting Vanessa's arrogance. Vanessa's phone buzzed relentlessly. She checked it, disbelief plastered on her face. I can't believe this. Everyone's seeing this." Her manager frowned, looking uncomfortable. You may want to step aside. Public opinion isn't in your favor. Ademola didn't gloat. He never did. That wasn't the point. He simply nodded to Amara and whispered softly, "You have no idea the impact you just made." Amara's heart pounded. I wasn't thinking about impact. I was thinking about helping someone. I didn't want them to feel embarrassed. I wanted to do what was right. And you did, Ademola said, a hint of pride breaking through his calm exterior. He motioned subtly for Hassan to hold the car door open. Would you join me for lunch? I want to properly thank you in private. Amara hesitated. Her mind raced. Lunch? With him? She glanced at Vanessa, whose eyes were still stormy. I don't know. I have work. Consider an opportunity, Ademola said gently. No strings attached. I promise. Something in the sincerity of his voice, something in the quiet strength of his presence, made her nod. Okay, she whispered. They left the store, the hum of whispered comments following them into the parking lot. Ademola's car was sleek, black, understated, but impossible to miss. Amara climbed in cautiously, her hands slightly shaking. Hassan gave her a polite nod and closed the door. Ademola turned to her, smiling lightly. I know this must feel overwhelming. It does, she admitted. I didn't expect anything like this today. Nor did I, Ademola said softly. I wasn't expecting to find such generosity in someone so ordinary. But here you are, proving that kindness still exists. Amara's eyes widened. Kindness exists, she repeated, almost to herself. She thought about the last time she'd felt truly seen, truly appreciated. Today, in the simplest of acts, she had. Exactly, Ademola said. And it's rare. That's why I wanted to thank you properly. Over the next few days, the video went viral. 10 million views within 24 hours. By the third day, 18 million. News outlets picked up the story. Headlines blared. Cashier gives stranger $24. Billionaire reveals identity. Social media debated the ethics, the courage, the audacity. Vanessa's public reputation took a nosedive. Corporate HR received countless calls and emails criticizing her behavior. Within a week, she resigned. Through it all, Amara remained humble. She didn't gloat. She didn't ask for attention. Every time someone mentioned her generosity online, she'd blush and quietly deflect the praise. She was proud, yes, but she hadn't done it for fame. Ademola watched her from afar. He had tested the world that day, and the result had been clear. In a world where many sought status and recognition, genuine selflessness still existed. And he had found it in Amara. He invited her to lunch at a quiet, elegant bistro downtown. No cameras, no media, just two people sharing a meal. She nervously smoothed her apron. I hope I don't seem awkward, she said. You could never, Ademola said, smiling warmly. I find her honesty refreshing. They spoke for hours. He asked her about her studies, her family, her dreams. She spoke about her brother, Eli, who was 18 and preparing for university, her late nights studying, her second job at a cleaning company. Every word she said, every honest detail, made him admire her more. You work so hard, he said softly. You could easily resent the world for making life this difficult, but you don't. That says something about you. Amara laughed nervously. I guess I just try to focus on what I can do. I can't change everything, but I can do something. And that is precisely why you are remarkable, Ademola said. Over the next 6 months, their relationship grew, slowly, organically. Not romantically at first, but with trust, respect, and admiration. Ademola funded her remaining tuition as a loan, not a gift, allowing her to finish her accounting degree without feeling indebted. He set up a scholarship for Eli, giving him access to engineering prep programs and mentoring resources. Every week, they met for coffee or lunch. She asked questions about business, finance, ethics, life. He answered honestly, guiding her without condescension. People often think money teaches power, he said once. But it's only character that teaches true influence. Amara learned quickly. Her confidence grew. She began to see herself differently, no longer just a hardworking cashier, but someone capable of shaping her own future. One rainy afternoon, she lingered in his office, staring at the skyline of Atlanta. "I never imagined any of this," she whispered. Ademola's eyes softened. "None of it matters if it changes you. That was always the point, to see what would happen when a small act of courage meets opportunity." Meanwhile, Vanessa's story continued to unfold online. Public shaming, viral memes, corporate reprimands. Her arrogance and harshness had cost her respect and credibility. Yet Ademola never gossiped or celebrated her downfall. He only believed in the quiet truth. Kindness outlasted cruelty. One day, months later, Vanessa returned to the grocery store, visibly struggling. Amara saw her standing at the register, holding a crumpled list of groceries, and something inside her shifted. Without a word, she quietly paid for the woman's groceries. Vanessa's eyes widened. I don't understand," she murmured. Amara smiled softly. "You don't need to understand. Just try to live differently." Vanessa's shoulders slumped, a quiet apology in her posture. The store, bustling as ever, seemed to hold its breath for a moment. Then life continued, a lesson learned in silence. If you watched to this point, please remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Months passed, each day layering respect, trust, and quiet admiration between Ademola and Amara. Their bond was not rushed. It grew through shared conversations, mentorship, and small gestures of thoughtfulness. Ademola never flaunted his wealth, and Amara never sought it. Their connection was grounded in authenticity, in the unspoken understanding that kindness and integrity mattered more than money. Amara's last semester arrived, and with it, the intensity of exams, projects, and balancing her two jobs. Ademola offered guidance, not pressure. "You're stronger than you think," he said one evening as they walked through a quiet park near her apartment. "I've seen how you handle stress, responsibility, and generosity. That strength will carry you far." She smiled, exhausted but grateful. "It doesn't feel like strength when it's just life," she murmured. "Then you haven't realized your own power yet," he replied, a gentle confidence in his voice. Graduation day arrived like a soft storm of anticipation. Amara walked across the stage, her family cheering, Eli beaming beside her. Ademola sat quietly in the audience, his eyes locked on her, pride shining but restrained. When her name was called as valedictorian, applause erupted. She scanned the crowd and saw him standing, clapping with a rare, genuine warmth. Their eyes met, and in that moment, everything, struggle, sacrifice, perseverance, was validated. After the ceremony, they met outside under the warm glow of late afternoon sunlight. Ademola handed her a small, neatly wrapped folder. "For you," he said softly. She opened it to find a letter and the confirmation of a mentorship and internship program within his company. "Your journey isn't over," he said. "It's just beginning." Amara's eyes glistened. I don't know what to say." "You've said enough through your actions," he whispered. "That's always more important than words." 6 months later, they returned to Freshmart. But this time, it wasn't for groceries. It was for a quiet, unconventional wedding. The store was decorated simply, with friends, family, and community members gathered in celebration. No extravagance, just life, connection, and love rooted in truth. Ademola and Amara exchanged vows not of grand promises, but of authenticity, love, patience, humility, and living meaningfully. Amara looked at him, her voice steady despite the flutter in her heart. "I promise to be honest, to be kind, and to never forget the lessons that brought me here." Ademola smiled, holding her hands. "I promise to value your heart above all else, to honor your courage, and to build a life with truth at its center." The crowd erupted in applause, some eyes wet with tears. But it wasn't pomp or status that made the moment unforgettable. It was the simplicity, the authenticity, the journey from a small act of generosity to a life transformed. After the wedding, life continued in its ordinary rhythm, but forever altered by what had happened in that small grocery store. Amara worked diligently in her internship, learning not just accounting, but leadership, empathy, and vision. Ademola watched her grow, quietly supporting without overwhelming, always respecting her independence. Then one day, Vanessa returned. She looked worn, humbled, carrying only the modest groceries she could afford. Amara recognized her immediately. Without hesitation, she smiled softly and paid for the items. Vanessa froze, confusion and shame mixing with relief. You don't have to, Vanessa whispered, almost ashamed. Amara shook her head. I know, but sometimes kindness matters more than pride. I hope you can see that now. Vanessa nodded slowly, a tear sliding down her cheek. She left the store quietly, transformed not by wealth, but by the grace she had been shown. Ademola watched the interaction from distance. He turned to Amara, his eyes warm. See, even the hardest hearts can change when met with patience and kindness. Amara smiled, feeling the weight and beauty of the lesson. It's powerful, she said, and it all started with $24.13. Ademola laughed softly. Sometimes the smallest gestures carry the greatest meaning. That evening, as the sun set over Atlanta, Ademola and Amara sat together, reflecting on the journey. From a crowded grocery line to graduation, to love, to forgiveness, life had taught them both a profound truth. True wealth is measured not in buildings or money, but in the heart willing to give, even when it costs everything. And in that moment, they understood that they had found more than love. They had found humanity. They had found grace. They had found each other. The world outside could remain chaotic, judgmental, and impatient. But within their shared life, kindness, humility, and integrity reigned supreme. And that, more than any fortune, was priceless.